Hi folks and welcome to In the Kitchen with Pete. Today we're doing risotto. I used to think it was a complicated process, but it's not. You need a bit of time, so take your time. Set out an hour of the day. It takes about 25 minutes, but by the time you dice and slice, get yourself a glass of wine, enjoy the ride. Risotto's fun to cook if you have the time. I'd like to give a shout out to Ryan Stewart for this recipe, better known as Stewie. I retired from the fire hall 5 years ago. Hard to believe, time flies when you're having fun. Well, when I worked at the fire hall with Stewie, he shared some great recipes and still does today. Not only a great firefighter, but pretty amazing in the kitchen too. Thanks, Stewie. Let's get to it. We're using Arborio Rice. It's an Italian short grain rice. It's high in starch, and that's what gives risotto its creamy texture. Let's start off and prepare our vegetables. We'll need 1/2 of a large onion, finely diced. 1 bunch of fresh asparagus. Just simply snap the tough ends off and discard those. And then we'll dice up our asparagus into 1/2-inch pieces. If you're a garlic fan like I am, we gotta add some. Let me show you a quick technique to mince your garlic. To remove the paper-like cover over the clove, simply smash it and then give it a little snip off of each end and the paper will just fall right off. Now finely dice the clove of garlic. But that's not going to be fine enough to add to our risotto. So we're going to use some coarse sea salt. This will be like an abrasive. It will just smooth out our garlic. So when we add it to the risotto, it will all mix nice and even. Once you've learned this technique, you'll wonder why you ever bought jarred minced garlic. The fresh flavor of it is so much better. My veg is all prepped. Now one more thing we have to do before we get making our risotto. We're going to boil the asparagus. We'll only boil this for 2.5 minutes. Then we'll drain it and set it aside, as we'll add this to our risotto a little later on. We're going to need 6.5 cups of broth. Of course, a homemade broth is always preferred, but here's an option. This is called Better Than Bouillon. It's a chicken base. You just mix it with hot water. It has some great flavor. And the other option is a vegetable. This also comes in an organic vegetable base, low in sodium. It's delicious. I mix the two together and do half chicken, half vegetable. Bring it to a boil and then just set it off on a side burner on low. Add 3 tablespoons of olive oil to a non-stick, deep-sided pan. My heat's on medium. My objective is just to soften up the onions. It'll take about 4 or 5 minutes. Now we'll add our 2 cups of arborio rice. Stir it thoroughly to ensure that it gets coated with the oil. Continue to stir for 3 or 4 minutes, and then we're going to add 1 cup of dry wine. I'm using a Pinot Grigio just because that's what I like to drink. I'm on a low to medium heat, and we'll stir until that's absorbed. Now we can start the process of adding our broth. First we'll add 2 ladlefuls of broth. When you're doing this process of adding the broth slowly, remember, you're not whipping up a meringue. Take your time, stir it slowly. You want to get all that broth absorbed. Take your time, it'll come out nice and smooth. You'll end up with a nice, luxurious risotto. Now this process of adding one ladle of broth at a time is going to take 20 to 25 minutes. As the liquid dissipates, you just simply add another ladle of your broth and stir it in gently. And don't leave the stove. You gotta babysit this dish. Take your time, it'll all come together. As we reach the end of adding our broth to the arborio rice, you'll notice it becoming more creamy each time. That's from the high starch content in arborio rice. Give it a taste. The rice should have a slight chew to it, and we'll add a couple pinches of salt. We're not done yet. Let's add 4 tablespoons of butter. That'll help get it even more creamier and smooth. And our minced garlic. Stir that in well, and now we'll add 1 cup of fresh grated Parmesan Reggiano. And now we can add our asparagus. And look how nice and creamy it is. That's what you're looking for. Add 3 or 4 freshly chopped basil leaves. Place a lid on it for 5 minutes and it's ready to serve it up. Risotto is such a versatile dish. Can be used as a main or a side. A nice main for this is always chicken, maybe a nice balsamic chicken. Whatever you choose, this risotto is so delicious. Look how creamy it is. Just lays on the plate and spreads out. Oh boy, my mouth is watering. Now that wasn't so difficult, was it? And risotto goes together with all sorts of things like seafood, mushrooms, and asparagus, and I'm gonna give it a try. Oh. Wow. It's creamy. The asparagus is just cooked perfect. You get a hit of the Parmesan and that slight hint of garlic that we put in there. You're gonna love it. Well, thanks for coming out and watching In the Kitchen with Pete. Until next time, see ya!
Well, it ain't easy living life.